Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, I've already taken care of ABC. I don't watch them. Mr. Carr, there's $42 billion allocated for connecting people who are not connected to the internet. How many have been connected?
Zero. Through this
what
$42 billion program, zero.
That's what I thought. Mr. Krikorian, we've taken a lot of heat about not in the House for not taking up the Senate border bill, but wouldn't that have just codified catch and release?
Yes, it would have, and it would have made the border crisis worse by making it more likely that illegal border crossers would end up being released into the United States.
Ms. Mobbs, Wall Street Journal this morning, I want to read you a quote. It says, any delays providing additional supplies of LNG to Ukraine and our Eastern European allies could jeopardize European energy security and market stability in the long term. LNG exports promote geopolitical stability and serve our national security interest. Who do you think said that?
I don't know.
Democrats. There's a letter sent to the Biden administration by no fewer than a dozen House Democrats urging the administration to expedite projects to help Ukraine and investments in the United States. But the most telling thing is Biden officials had hoped to use the pause on LNG exports to excite young progressive voters, and they were using TikTok lobbying campaign on that issue. I find that problematic considering that we've determined in a bipartisan manner, 100% agreement in the Energy and Commerce Committee that TikTok is a national security threat. Yet the Biden administration used TikTok to launch a lobbying campaign to have a pause on LNG, and it's alienated allies, European allies, who have been counting on the U.S. to reduce their dependence on Russian gas, which still accounts for about 15% of Europe's gas supply. Is that a problem?
I think much of what you just said is a problem, Congressman, to include obviously not TikTok being a national security threat, but there were 23 different key actions the Biden administration took that actually encouraged Russia to invade Ukraine. And if I had more time, I would be happy to delineate all 23 different key policy decisions that were much like this one.
Yeah. Mr. Carr, we allocated $7.5 billion to build charging stations. How many have been built?
I believe 8 more than have been built in terms of connections on the internet side. Ms.
Gunnasekara, the EPA set up a National Clean Investment Fund. Do you know who heads up that bank? It's basically an investment bank. In your experience at the EPA, how many bankers, investment bankers, did the EPA have on staff?
None that I recall.
Have you looked into the Clean School Bus Program and the grants that have been allocated for that? Have you had a chance to look at that?
Not most recently. I'm familiar with the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act, which was a longstanding program actually supported by former boss of mine, Senator Jim Inhofe, and Tom Carper over at Senate EPW, and then culminated into lots of advancements and improvements led by Administrator Wheeler to ensure that we could reduce emissions in areas where there's a ton of idling. But I haven't.
Well, what I'm talking about, though, is that they've set up this investment bank, and they're making grants to nonprofit groups. They're making grants to hub groups. And it concerns me because if you go back to what happened with NIH and the gain of function research, our law clearly prohibits funding for gain of function research, but they'd make grants to a grantee who would then make sub-grants. And I'm concerned about how this is going to be managed at the EPA. I just had an opportunity to have this discussion with the Inspector General of the EPA. He's very concerned about a number of things, and particularly the criminal division of the EPA, but also the fact that they're rushing this money out the door. He cited one instance where a school administration applied for a grant for a clean school bus, and they have no students. Is that a problem?
Yeah, that's a huge problem. And waste, fraud, and abuse through the grant program, especially when an agency like EPA is receiving billions of dollars to be funneled through their grant office, that they're not equipped to handle that degree of taxpayer funds appropriately or responsibly, it creates all sorts of opportunities for nefarious uses.
Okay, on the criminal division, they've bought military-style weapons, military equipment, And yet, my Democrat colleagues want to defund the police, but they want to militarize the EPA's criminal division. Is that a problem?
Yeah, I see that as a problem. I would suggest defense resources go towards defense agencies, and that is not within EPA's mission.
Thank you for your answers to all the witnesses. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back, Chair.